Stress is not the problem. It's our response to it. Most people let stress control them, drain their energy, and steal their joy. But what if I told you that you could flip the script? What if you could ask yourself just 4 simple questions that would instantly give you back your power, clarity, and peace of mind? Yes, 4 questions that can end stress forever. The first question is this within my control? Most of our stress comes from fighting battles that aren't ours to fight. We worry about the weather, the economy, what other people think, or how the future will unfold. But stress loses its grip when you ask yourself, can I actually control this? If the answer is no, release it. Focus your energy only on what you can influence, your actions, your choices, your mindset. That shift alone is life changing, because stress thrives in wasted energy, but peace thrives in focused energy. The second question is, what's the worst that could happen? Fear multiplies stress because our mind blows problems out of proportion. But when you face the worst case scenario honestly, it's often not as terrifying as your imagination makes it. And even if it is difficult, you'll see that you are stronger, more resourceful, and more capable than you thought. By naming the worst, you strip it of its power, and in that moment, stress shrinks and courage grows. The third question is, what meaning am I giving this? Events don't create stress, our interpretation does. 2 people can face the same challenge, and one will crumble while the other will rise. Why? Because of the story they tell themselves. If you see a challenge as a punishment, you'll feel hopeless. If you see it as a test or an opportunity, you'll feel empowered. Change your perspective, and you change your emotional state. Stress is not about what happens. It's about the meaning you attach to it. And the fourth question is, will this matter a year from now? So much of what stresses us today is temporary, tiny bumps on the road of life that won't matter in the long run. Yet we let them steal our peace, ruin our day, and even affect our health. But when you step back and ask this question, most stress dissolves instantly. You gain perspective. You realize that life is too short to waste on things that won't matter tomorrow, let alone a year from now. So the next time stress comes knocking at your door, don't let it in. Don't give it your power. Ask yourself these 4 questions. Is this within my control? What's the worst that could happen? What meaning am I giving this? Will this matter a year from now? Each one peels away the layers of fear, worry, and tension until all that's left is clarity, peace, and strength. My friend, stress doesn't have to control your life. You can master it, you can rise above it, and you can live with freedom and calmness every single day. The power is in your questions. The answers will set you free. Every day, stress tries to sneak into our lives, whispering doubts, worries, and fears into our minds. But here's the truth. The majority of the stress we carry isn't even ours to hold on to. It's like carrying a heavy backpack filled with problems we can't solve, outcomes we can't dictate, and events we can't control. And yet, we walk around with this burden, exhausting ourselves, draining our energy, and wondering why life feels so overwhelming. The first step to ending stress forever begins with a single, life-changing question. Is this within my control? Think about how often you worry about things that are completely outside your influence. The weather, what people will think, the economy, someone else's mood, the past that cannot be changed, the future that hasn't even arrived. These are all things that no amount of stress, no matter how intense, can alter. Yet this is where most people pour their energy. They replay scenarios in their heads, argue with people who aren't even in the room, and lose sleep over things that are, by their very nature, untouchable. It's like trying to stop the tide with your bare hands. You'll only exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. Now imagine what happens when you ask yourself, is this within my control? Suddenly, you have a filter, a tool that separates the noise from the signal. If the answer is no, then you set it down, you let it go. You give yourself permission to stop fighting battles that aren't yours. That act alone feels like taking off 100 pounds from your shoulders. You realize you don't have to carry the world, you only need to carry what's truly yours. But here's where the real magic happens, when you realize what is within your control, your choices, your mindset. Your daily habits, the words you speak, the actions you take, the standards you hold yourself to. That is your territory, that is your domain, and when you pour your energy into these things, you stop feeling powerless and start feeling unstoppable. Because the truth is, stress thrives in helplessness, but it dies in responsibility. When you focus on what you can control, you take back your power, you gain clarity, and you create momentum toward the life you want. Let me remind you, control doesn't mean controlling the world. It means controlling yourself in the world. You can't control if a storm comes, but you can control whether you carry an umbrella. You can't control if someone criticizes you, but you can control how you respond. You can't control every outcome, but you can control the effort you give and the attitude you choose. That's where peace lies, not in domination of circumstances, but in mastery of self. So the next time stress tries to wrap its chains around you, pause and ask, is this within my control? If it isn't, release it. If it is, act on it. That single question can end half your stress instantly because it redirects your energy from the impossible to the possible, from chaos to clarity, from fear to freedom. And once you master this question, you'll never again waste your life worrying about things that don't belong to you. Stress has a way of feeding on fear. It whispers in your mind, what if this goes wrong? What if you fail? What if they reject you? What if everything falls apart? And before you know it, you're paralyzed by endless what-ifs, suffocated by problems that haven't even happened yet. But there is a simple, powerful question that can cut through the fog of fear like a sword. What's the worst that could happen? When you ask this question, something extraordinary happens. You stop running from the shadows in your mind, and you turn around to face them. You shine a light on the monster under the bed, and suddenly you see that it isn't as terrifying as you thought. Stress magnifies uncertainty. It thrives in the unknown, but when you name the worst case scenario, you strip it of its mystery. You see it clearly, and clarity is the beginning of courage. Think about the last time you were consumed with worry. Maybe it was a project at work, a tough conversation, or a major life decision. Your mind likely spun 100 scenarios, all of them ending in disaster. But when you ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? You take those vague fears and put them into words. And once they're in front of you, you can evaluate them, you can plan for them, you can prepare for them. More often than not, you realize the worst is survivable, and sometimes even trivial. Here's the secret: human beings are far more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. The things you fear will break you are usually the things that will shape you, strengthen you, and reveal your inner power. Maybe the worst that could happen is failure. But what is failure really? It's not the end of the road. It's just a bend in the road. Failure teaches, redirects, and refines. Maybe the worst that could happen is rejection, but rejection only means redirection towards something better, something meant for you. Maybe the worst that could happen is loss. But even in loss, you discover your ability to rebuild, to adapt, to rise again. By facing the worst, you also discover the best, because once you know you can survive the darkest possibility, everything else feels lighter. Stress fades not because the situation changes, but because your perspective does. You're no longer trapped in fear. You're operating in strength. You stop obsessing over what might go wrong, and you start focusing on what you can make go right. The next time stress grips you, don't let your mind spiral in endless loops. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Say it out loud, write it down, face it, and then realize this: you are bigger than your fears, stronger than your obstacles, and more powerful than any worst case scenario. Stress doesn't stand a chance against a person who has looked fear in the eye and said, even if that happens, I will still rise. Life is not about what happens to you. It's about what you make it mean. Every event, every challenge, every setback is neutral until your mind gives it a label, and that label becomes your reality. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation, yet one feels crushed by stress while the other feels empowered to grow. It's not the situation that determines their state, it's the meaning they attach to it. When stress takes over, it's not the event itself that breaks you, it's the story you tell yourself about it. Maybe you didn't get the job. One meaning could be, I'm a failure, I'll never succeed. That meaning will drain your energy, feed your anxiety, and magnify your stress. But another meaning could be, this wasn't the right fit, and something better is coming. That meaning will spark hope, build resilience, and turn stress into motivation. The event didn't change, the meaning did. And because the meaning changed, your emotional state transformed completely. Here's the truth: meaning is the lens through which you experience life. If you see obstacles as punishments, you'll always feel burdened. If you see obstacles as teachers, you'll always feel empowered. If you see rejection as a sign of inadequacy, you'll crumble. But if you see rejection as redirection, you'll stand taller and keep moving forward. Stress isn't born from reality, it's born from interpretation. Think about it. Every single day, life gives you raw material, challenges, disappointments, unexpected twists. These are like clay. On their own, they're neither good nor bad. But the meaning you assign is the sculpture you create. You can shape stress, fear, and hopelessness, or you can shape strength, wisdom, and gratitude. The power is always in your hands. The beautiful part is, you can choose meaning intentionally. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Shift the question to, how is this happening for me? That one word for changes everything. Suddenly, instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become a student of life. Stress transforms into a signal guiding you toward growth, resilience, and self-discovery. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late. You could attach the meaning, this is ruining my day, I'm powerless. Stress skyrockets. Or you could attach a different meaning. Maybe this delay is protecting me from something worse. Maybe it's teaching me patience. The traffic didn't change, but your peace of mind did, because the meaning you gave it changed. This principle applies to every area of life: work, relationships, health, even your past. The past cannot be rewritten, but the meaning you attach to it can always be redefined. You can see a painful memory as something that scarred you, or as something that shaped you. The choice of meaning determines whether your past imprisons you or empowers you. So when stress shows up, pause and ask, what meaning am I giving this? If the meaning weakens you, change it. If the meaning feeds stress, rewrite it. Because life is not what happens, it's what you decide it means. And when you take control of meaning, you take control of your destiny. So much of what stresses us out today is temporary. Think about the things that made you anxious a year ago. Most of them don't even cross your mind now. Yet in the moment, they felt huge, urgent, even unbearable. Stress tricks us into believing that every small issue is a life or death situation, but when you zoom out, you realize most of it won't matter in the long run. That's why this question is so powerful. Will this matter a year from now? It forces perspective. It helps you step outside the storm of the present moment and see the bigger picture. If the answer is no, then why sacrifice your peace, your energy, and your joy over something that's temporary? Life is too short to hand over your happiness to things that will fade with time. Even if the answer is yes, and it will matter a year from now, then stressing isn't the solution, action is. Worry doesn't solve tomorrow's problems, it only steals today's peace. So instead of drowning in fear, ask yourself, what small step can I take today that will still matter a year from now? That turns stress into momentum, and momentum into progress. Perspective is the cure for unnecessary stress. The moment you realize that most of today's problems are tomorrow's forgotten stories, you free yourself, you reclaim your calm, and you remind yourself of this truth: life is bigger than the moment, and peace is always a choice.